Concerning the Minister of Tiat saying that she's not here again, the Regina Labega, no, the contract is already finished. Any idea where the Council of Ministers will take the airport now, the airport management, so on?
Any idea where the Council of Ministers will take the airport?
Yes, as shareholder, unless the Council of Ministers is not a shareholder of the airport.
You have to formulate your question,
Okay.
then I can provide an answer.
All
You're
right.
asking me, now that Regina Labega's contract has expired at the airport, where the Council of Ministers is taking the airport.
Well, as far as management is concerned, I mean, have you created an opinion yet on?
There is a board at the airport. The board would be responsible for the process to select a managing director and submit such proposals to government. There is presently an interim director in place, and the Council of Ministers is busy with the process of appointing new members to the board, seeing that several members, their time have expired on one of the boards. That's as far as it is right now.
Okay. On GB, you said that they have a press conference at 11:30 today, but seeing the frustration of persons with the number of outages, did you get to meet with?
As I said before, I think it is important. It is best to leave any statements about GBA, what the causes are, what they intend to do, how long they envision this would take or not take. I think this is a discussion, particularly because they're having the press briefing in the next less than an hour. I think that's the appropriate channel to address these issues with.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Alita Singh, Daily Herald, you have the floor. Good morning.
Thank you, Cedric. Good morning, Prime Minister, Minister of Finance. Prime Minister, on the Integrity Chamber law, has there been any communication with the Dutch government? Of course, you also mentioned this morning that they were the ones very vehement that we should have something in place. Have they been in contact with you to say, well, we want this fixed, or have you been in contact with them?
No, I have not taken up any contact with them, and neither did they take up any contact with me directly. Sometimes communications can be sent and might take some time before they reach, let's say, my desk, but I have not received any communication from the Dutch government. As I said, our legal affairs department is looking at the verdict, if you would call it, the ruling of the Constitutional Court, and they're going back in terms of what have been the agreements, what have been the developments, where are we, how do we move forward from here. One of the things that remains an issue is the tackling of integrity breaches or integrity issues. Do we want to continue down this way? But I have always, as a member of parliament, opposed the Integrity Chamber in the fashion in which it was being pursued. And I was extremely disappointed when the vote came down to see basically the up faction particularly that was vehemently opposing the draft when it was first presented, and whatever was told to them, it's like they decided to turn in the opposite direction. I believe it's some 26 changes that they had proposed to the minister. There were even those that claimed that they rather die on their feet than to live on their knees, as far as the Integrity Chamber is concerned. And then we saw a complete turnaround, and they voted for it. So we are happy that St. Martin is unique within the kingdom in that we have a constitutional court, and we should now, in hindsight, say, thank God for the constitutional court, because if it was not there, then the wishes of the Dutch in the manner in which they insisted that they negotiated a draft with the then Minister of Finance, Minister of Justice Dennis Richardson, and wanted to lay claim to the fact that they reached an agreement with him and that this draft legislation had to be adopted as is, where is, or else it's a good thing that we have built in our system the checks and balances of a constitutional court that guards against such infringements. Because was it not for the Constitutional Court, today we would have had a group of people running all over St. Martin and investigating people without the proper basis to do so, and without those being investigated having the proper tools to defend themselves, because then an integrity chamber law would be used against them.
On electoral reform, is there any update for us on the process after the Dutch, I believe 3 weeks ago, said they had serious issues with the draft?
They,
Process now?
no, because Parliament is on recess, the next step is going to be in the first week that Parliament resumes. We will send our response to Parliament, and then Parliament can have the public debate initiated on it. Personally, I've said that, I'm looking forward to my day in Parliament in order to bring my case to Parliament and bring my case, the government's case, to Parliament and by extension the people of St. Martin. I've spoken extensively last week, and I don't want to repeat too much of what I've said, but it is clear that those who have written advices in the Netherlands have not probably taken the time to analyze, because that is one of the mistakes that we make in the kingdom, analyze the legislation of St. Martin. St. Martin's legislation is different to that of the Netherlands. Here, in our legislation since 2010, we place a heavy emphasis on the role and the functioning of political parties. We give meaning to a political party, and then we want to ignore the existence of political parties after. The Dutch government and within the Dutch system, they don't know a constitutional court. We do. The party structure in the Netherlands is not something that they have paid attention to. And that is why you have, for instance, the party of Geert Wilders, that is basically a dictatorial regime. It's a one-man party. Here, one cannot form any and every party, register it, and get a green light. Here you have to register your party, and if your party does not comply with certain organizational requirements, it has to be structured a particular way, or else you don't get permission to register your party, and therefore don't get permission to take part in our elections. So now to turn it around and say, hey, that proposal that is coming from the government is giving power to a political party, no, or is recognizing a political party. Political parties are recognized by the system. The legislation adopted going into 2010 makes it mandatory to have political parties, makes it mandatory for political parties to register, makes it mandatory for political parties to be of a certain a makeup and live up to certain requirements. If the political party infringes on the rules of financing of political parties, it has consequences for the political party and consequences for the members of that political party who have been elected. One can lose his or her seat because of the role the political party played in contravention to the rules as stipulated by law. So we can't adopt legislation and give power and authority to political parties and then turn around and say, yeah, but political parties got no role in our system. So therefore, I'm saying we have some are confusing issues, or we have allowed St. Martin to adopt legislation within a kingdom where those, the higher-ups in the kingdom, if you would want to call it, are not in agreement with the role of political parties. Then that should have been said so during the vetting of the organic laws of St. Martin, or St. Martin did not suck things out of its thumb. There was a vetting committee going back to the negotiations in the late 2000s, in the early 2006, 6, 7, 8, 9, leading up to 2010. All our organic laws in our constitution were vetted, and they got the green light. So you can't agree for us to implement new legislation, in essence, introduce a different approach to our electoral laws and our electoral system, and then condemn us when we try to fix the Constitution to make sure that abuse that is being made to the system is not corrected.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alida. Bibi, you have the floor.
Prime Minister Marlin, again, it's not your portfolio, but there are too many people coming in front of this government building trying to see the Minister of Health or any minister that can probably help them with the situation going on at SZV. I published an article, and then I got a fake press release later about an audit that is supposed to be conducted at SZV, especially the medical referral department. Do you have anything to say to the new director or CEO of SZV about what should be done when it comes to health care, especially people that have to be sent off island to get treatment and then they end up on the streets?
They
No,
get treatment and end up on the streets where in
They're
Colombia?
supposed, no, they have to go to Santo Domingo, for example. They were sent to Santo Domingo. There's somebody working there that has some sort of conflict of interest. Patients end up in the streets for 2 days without food. They can't get the contact that SZV is supposed to be having there. I mean, there was somebody in front of the government building this morning waiting for Minister Lee, and up to now we can't find him.
Maybe again, I'm not into sensation. When, as Prime Minister, I get questions put to me by several persons on a regular basis. Some of them I refer to the Minister of Health. Others I have my staff deal with the Minister of Health or with SZV. Some of them, for instance, are related to people who don't understand how the system works, and they go to, let's say, Colombia or Santo Domingo for, let's say, a kidney transplant, or there are problems with their kidneys. And while they're there, they say, you know what, since I'm here, I've been complaining about a back problem, let me go and see a back specialist. And then they're told, you don't have a referral, you would have to get a referral from St. Martin. And then it would be like, yeah, but I'm already here. The system does not work so. This week I had a meeting late, I think it was Thursday or Friday last week, with a gentleman who asked to see me, and Minister Lee was in my office, and late in the evening we were having a discussion. And when I saw when the gentleman came and he was waiting outside, this is now after 9:30 in the night, and I saw him with SZV documents in his hands. So I said, Minister Lee, don't leave. It appears that this is a case actually for you. Both Minister Lee and myself stayed there, and what basically was the case, someone who had to be operated upon locally, didn't like how things had developed, and out of fear that he may not get the best possible treatment locally, on his own, he went to a different country, paid for his travels back and forth several times, paid for his medical cost, and then dropped the bill on SZV, and has been not receiving the kind of attention he felt he should receive in terms of people feel if I am paying and have paid medical insurance for a number of years, finally, for the first time, I'm sick. So if I go to Panama, if I go to China, if I go to Anguilla, I should just bring my bills and SZV has to pay them because I'm insured with SZV. I think there's a lack of communication, or not communication, probably information, or people don't know exactly how it works. Right now, there's another case that I'm looking into for someone who is diabetic, and a toenail was apparently removed by a doctor here, created one serious consequence and problem for the person, and they felt, I am not getting any help here. So on their own, they go to Aruba. The doctors in Aruba are saying, whoa, you need help. But who is paying the bill? SZV is saying, I didn't send her. The family is saying, we don't have the resources. So SZV, and I can go on and on and on of the many real cases, and those people listening, each of them would recognize their case. I'm not calling any names, but there are real cases of real people. It is everywhere in the world that you would have these kind of problems, including the United States, where people feel that Obamacare isn't working the way it should. There are those who feel it is. On the other end of the spectrum, I can also tell you about endless cases of people who tell you, boy, I have been to Colombia. What excellent treatment. Everything went fine. On the other hand, I get another person who said, everything was great. After 2 days, the doctors were finished with me, but I had to stay in Colombia 4 days because I couldn't change my ticket. I wasn't allowed to change my ticket. All of these are things that need to be looked into. They are being looked into. I know the minister personally went to Colombia, has looked into things. I got an email from someone who was there and said, yes, the minister was here. Yes, there are things that are exceptionally well over here, but there are also things that the minister needs to look into. I passed it on to him, and between him and SZV, they are addressing it. I have cases, a young lady who met me one day and said, I've been back and forth, they're referring me to, on the French side, I'm waiting for weeks, actually for over a month on an appointment. And when I finally saw them, it was not the right doctor I've seen. I am in severe pain, Prime Minister. Can something be done? I contacted SZV personally 2 days after I think the person was referred to Colombia. So who do we hold responsible? Is it the minister if something goes wrong? Is it the director of SZV if something goes wrong? But if they don't know, and oftentimes, rather than communicating on behalf of somebody, we begin accusing the government, the institution, the director, there's corruption, and there's this, and there's that. If there was an incident in Santo Domingo, I have a brother who has been to Santo Domingo because of his condition on several occasions. He has never yet come back with one complaint to me that he was treated bad, he was treated indifferent, or he was out on the street and didn't know where to go, didn't know where to live. If there is one incident between, because what is one of the issues that we have, okay? What is one of the complaints that we hear? That family members are traveling with a patient, okay? Why does a family member travel with a patient? Because that family member has to be there to answer any questions or sometimes to help make a decision. If a patient is not in a condition to sign off on a medical procedure that has to be done, a surgery needs to be done, and you want somebody to say, yes, do it. One of the complaints that we get is when the doctors or the hospital is looking for the person who traveled with the patient, they're out shopping, they're out sightseeing, and they're not there at the bedside of the patient. So SZV is contemplating like putting in place a sort of a protocol that you sign before you leave, agreeing that these are my responsibilities. Because this is the condition under which they're paying for your ticket and they're paying for your stay, whether in Colombia or Santo Domingo, for you to be of assistance to that patient. And not to go there as like, oh boy, I'm seeing Colombia, I'm seeing Cali, I'm seeing Bogota, so let me go sightsee, let me go up in the mountains, let me go buy some fresh coffee beans. That is not the intention, that is not the idea. It's 11 o'clock and I have another meeting.
Last question,
And you got to make it to GB press briefing.
11:30. I understand all the kind of descriptions you gave me because I wrote about them, but also there are real cases, there are real people that, depending on who you are maybe, you get a different treatment. But what I'm going to ask you is that SZV completed, or they did, 2 selection process where they had interviewed a number of people to take on the CEO position. Apparently, all the people that they interviewed during 2 selection process were not qualified, or they're not good enough. But we have one person who got the job, an extension of 1 year. I don't know how legal it is, and currently going through screening. And he's CEO, will be CEO for 2 companies. Don't we have locals that can do the same job?
Baby, I'm not.
Other locals, I mean. Because I'm
I'm
not
not-
saying that this person is not a local. I know this person is a
I'm-
local.
I'm not here to answer to things that I am not privy to what has happened or what is going on. The interim CEO has been there before I was in government. And while I was in government, I know that a request came to extend the contract until the process is completed. I am not part of the selection process. I have no insight into who was interviewed. All I know is it is where it is at. That the person in question has been able to do a good job at both functions. I'm not here to judge, but I think from the outlook of it, he has been able to manage both positions. And I think if his primary job, if it was affected negatively by it, I think they would say, hey, boo, make up your mind, you either go there or you stay here, because permission would have to be granted by them for him to be part-time somewhere else as well. So if his primary job, things are flowing there, and he's getting his job done there, and they're happy with it, I don't see the issue. If they have not been able to find someone, it's best to have an interim director who's not permanent until you find a suitable person than to say, I'm just going to appoint someone, because we need to appoint someone, and then you appoint someone that turns out not to be the suitable candidate.
Thank you.